Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Let's learn computer science. In today's session, you'll learn about text files. How do we write in the text files? How do we read from a text file? So this is what we are going to cover today, writing and appending data to a text file, reading data from a text file, and there are two very important built-in functions, seek and tell, that we are going to understand how do we use them for file manipulation, right? So let's start. First of all, let's understand reading data from text file. So there are few steps that you need to understand. How do we read data from text file? We have covered this in my last video where I gave an introduction about file handling in Python. So you can go back and revisit those concepts if you want. However, I'm just giving a brief idea about these steps. So first of all, you need to open a file. So there are two different ways by which you can, open your file. So you can open using with clause, or you can just simply open using open function. So any of the method, any of the way you can use, and then you can write. This is the syntax. So you start with open and file name, comma, mode. So for text files, you can use R or RT. That's the mode for reading, W or WT for writing, A or AT for append. Okay. So these are some modes in which a file can be opened. So first step is open the file. Whatever file name is there, whatever mode you want to work in, open the file. So first step is always to open the file in that particular mode. There are two ways, with clause and of course using open function. So both the ways I have written here. There is one example also which we are going to explore and understand on Python shell. Okay, so first step is open the file, then of course read or write the content, and there are three different built-in functions that you can use. One is read, read line, and read lines. We are going to understand how these functions work and how you can use them in your programs. So after first step, opening the file, you need to read the content using any of these functions. And last but not least, you need to close the file. So closing the file is mandatory if you open it using open function like this. And in case you're using with clause, then it will automatically be closed and you don't need to close the file separately or specifically. Okay, so remember, open file, read the content, and close the file. And the same uh, steps will be used in when you are writing into the file or you're appending something into the file. You need to open the file, you need to do whatever work you want to do, whether it's reading or writing, and then you have to close the file. So these are the steps, and let's just look at these functions, read, read line, and read lines, and then we will go to Python shell to understand this in detail. First of all, read. So read function, it has a parameter, optional parameter size. So if you mention that size, then it will read those many bytes from the file. So read function, it reads a specified amount of content from a file. If omitted, if size parameter is omitted, then it continues from the last position until the end. So wherever your cursor is in the file handler, so it starts reading the file from there and goes till end, and it returns the content as a string. And if the end of file is reached, the empty string is returned. So if you are already at the end, so nothing is there, so it will return an empty string. Read line, it reads a single line from the text file and return it as a string. Okay, again, if you have already reached the end of the file, then it will return an empty string. Okay, now read lines, it reads all lines from the text file into a list of strings. So what it will return? It will return a list of strings. Read and read line, they return a string. Here, read lines, it returns a list of strings. Okay, now let's go to Python shell. Let's understand reading uh, data from text files. But before that, let's go to Notepad and let's create a file, because right now you have not learned how to write into files, which we will do later. So firstly, we'll just create a simple text file using Notepad. Okay. Okay, so I have opened Notepad. Now here we will just write simple content, 3, 4 lines. So I'm just writing hi. This is day 15 of Python masterclass by CS with SKS, right? So I've just written these 3 lines. I'll write one more, end of file. Okay, so these 4 lines I have written in a text file. I'm saving it as test.txt. It already exists, so I'm just overwriting it. Yes, now this is one file which is created. Now let's go to Python shell and let's understand how do we read this in Python shell. Okay, so this is my text file and this is my Python shell. So let's see how do we read a text file. So first of all, you need to open your file. I am using with clause to open so that I don't have to specifically close the file. So with open, and here, now as you know, I saved this file on the desktop. So I need to include the complete address of this file here. And when the text file and your Python program, they both are in the same directory, in the default directory, then you don't need to write the absolute path, which is complete path. Then you can simply write the file name.txt. However, as my text file is in some different directory and my Python program or shell is somewhere else, so I need to write the complete, which is absolute address here. So I am writing here the complete address. Then you have to write the mode in which you need to read the file, so which is R or RT. Then you need to specify the file handler. So I'm just using name as F. You can use any valid variable name, then colon, and then you will read the file. So I have to use the file handler here. So file handler is used to work with the file, whatever you want to do with the file, whether reading or writing or appending. You need to do any operation, whatever operation you want to do, you need to use file handler for that. So F dot, now for reading, we have 3 different functions. I am using read as of now. So if I simply write read, of course, it will read the file and I can use a variable and I can assign this value to that variable. But I am right now just printing whatever I'm reading. Okay, so if I press enter, so it read whole content, whatever is written here line by line, and it has given me this content. Yeah. Now again, if I write it here, I'm just copying the above and pasting it here. And if I want to read it again, if I again want to read it, I write the same line, let's say the same line, print, I write it here and I press enter. It only read it once, and second time, because it has already reached to end of the file, so it returns one empty string. Because here, when we reached here, file, there was nothing in the file, so it returned one empty string here. That is why there is nothing here. Whole file read and then empty string. Yeah, so that is how file reading happens. So let's just once more, I'm just copying this again. I am writing here this. If you want to read some specific number of bytes from the file, so let's say if I write 12, right? So it will only return first 12 bytes from the file. So it has only returned me this much. Now, if I write it again, if I write it here, And if I write here 10, and then first one will read up to 10 bytes, and then next function will read from starting after the 10th byte and rest of the file. So let's just check. Yeah. So first read function, it gave me this, and then next one gave me this. So that is how we use read. Similarly, if you want to use read line, so you can just simply write here read line. And then if you want to use read, fine, otherwise I'm just erasing it. And then press enter. So first line it has given me, right? So that is how we can use these different functions. So if you want to read lines, it will return a list of strings. Okay, so let's try that as well. So instead of this, I am using read lines. So it has returned me one list of strings. Whatever data it has taken from here, it's put in a list. Yeah, /n is just marking the end of each line from here. Okay, so that is how we read data from text files. Now let's understand how do we write in text files. Again, steps are same. Firstly, open the file in write mode. Use any one method, write complete file name, or if it is in the same default directory, then just the name of the file. Yeah, depending upon where your file is stored. So any one of these methods you can use for opening the file, then write the content. And we have two methods, write and write lines. These two functions are there to write your content. And then of course, close the file if you are not using with clause, otherwise it will automatically be closed. So these are steps. Okay. Now let's see how write and write lines methods they are used. So write method, it writes a string to a text file. So simply you put a string inside write function and that string will be written into the text file. And write lines, it writes a list of strings. So, you know, any iterable object you can write. So you have a tuple, you have a list, you have multiple strings inside that. So if you want to write those strings in one go, so you can just create a list or tuple or something, and then that iterable object can be passed to this write lines method, and that can be written to the file, text file. Now, one thing is very important that you need to understand, that in case you need to insert new line character, that you need to manually add, right? Using like this f.write/n or f.write/line/n. You need to manually add that new line character. Okay. Now, on the similar ground, before I take you to the Python shell for understanding how do we write, on the similar ground, we have appending data in text files. So steps are same. You need to open the file in append mode. So now append mode is A. It is not W. Append mode is A. So major difference between append mode and write mode is that write method, it deletes previous content. When you use W mode, then previous content is deleted and new content is overwritten over that, right? Now, append function, it is different in a way that whatever is there in the file already, that will stay there. When whatever new content you are going to write, that will be appended at the end of the file. So that's the major difference between write and append mode. Okay, so same steps, open the file, write the content using write or write lines, and then close the file. That is how append function works. Now, before I go to the Python shell, there are two things that you need to understand: seek and tell functions. Now, they also play a very, very important and major role in text file handling or file manipulation. Now, seek function, it is used to shift the position of the file cursor. So when you read the file, that file handler, its position is moved. So if you want to take that cursor to some specific position in the file, then you use seek function. We will understand this also in on Python shell. However, let's just understand what they are. Similarly, we have a tell function which will tell us the current position of the cursor, that where that file handler is currently positioned. Okay, so if you want to go to some specific position, you will use seek function. If you want to see where that cursor is currently, you want to just get that current position of the cursor, then you will use tell function. Here is an example also, you can go through it. However, we will understand this in Python shell. So let me take you to the Python shell first. So for writing a file also, steps are same. You need to firstly open the file. So I'm using again with function, with clause, because when I use with, I don't need to close my file specifically. It automatically closes when I come out of that block, right? So with open, again, I'm using same file. So that is why I'm using same complete absolute address I'm using and putting it here, not just the file name. Because why? Because my file, text file, and my Python shell, they are in different directories. Okay. Now, if you're writing into a file, then you will use write mode. If you're appending into the file, you will use append mode. Now, you know that in this file, I had my data already. Okay. So if I write W mode, it will erase that whole content and will rewrite. But if I append it, then it will not erase the previous data, but will append at the end of the file. So we'll see that. I'm writing I'm writing W first, write mode. Now it will, as I'm saying, it will delete the previous content, and you know what content it was having. So before that, you can see up there that this is my data. In that file, this is what I read previously. So now I'm opening it as, again, file handle. You can use any name. I can use A, B, C, D, X, Y, Z, whatever valid variable name. So I'm right. This time I'm using, instead of F, I'm using F1. I can use F also. It's not that I have to use different, but I can use same also. But this time I'm just making it as F1, so that you know that you can use any variable name. Okay, now what I need to do, I need to write into the file. So I need to use file handler, which is my F1 dot. Now for writing, I have two different functions, one write, and then we have write line. So for this, inside, you just simply write any string, whatever it is. So this time I'm writing CS with SKS, and I am closing it and coming out. Now it's showing me that I have written 9 characters in my file. Now, if I want to see what content I have written, so I need to read that file. For that, I need to again open this file because it is closed. I need to open it and I need to read the content using read method. So I need to open this in read mode. So I'll read it in read mode by writing R up there. And here I'm just writing the file read function using F1 dot read, close the bracket, and it has given me this. Now, earlier you know that this was the content in the file. However, now when I'm reading, it is giving me this because I have written this when I opened the file in W mode. It erased all the previous content and new content was written in that file. Now, similarly, you can use append mode. However, append mode will not delete previous content. I will use here A and I will write my new content, whatever content you want to write. So I'm writing hello only and I'm just going there. So it's saying 5 characters are written. So to read the content, I will again open it in read mode and I will read using read method. Now when I press, it's giving me CS with SKS and hello, because append function, it appended the new line at the end of the file which was there. Now if you want to insert some new line character, then you need to do that specifically using that. So that also I'll just show you. So if I'm using this, let's say I want to append something. So if I want to insert a new line character, so I need to write that specifically. So here I'm mentioning that. So sorry for this. So here I'm inserting new line character, right? And then I'm writing this hello again. Okay. So previously in my file, it is CS with SKS hello. And now I'm inserting a new line character and then again I'm writing hello one. Let's see. Now I have inserted this and this, these many characters. Now I need to again open the file in read mode. So I'm opening it in read mode and then I'm reading the content. And now it has given me CS with SKS hello and then hello one. So you can see how we are able to read and write the content. Now, one more thing that we need to understand is seek and tell function. So let's say I'm just again this one. So if I am using this again, I'm reading the file, let's say. Okay, so if I read whole file, okay, and then after this, if you want to see where your cursor is, so you can just print the position of the cursor by using file handler dot tell. So tell function will give you the current position of the file handler. Also, as you know that after reading the whole file, you reach to the end of the file. So if you want to go back to the start or somewhere in the middle, so you can use seek function. So f1 dot seek and you write where you want to go. Let's say I want to go to third byte of the file. So third position, it will take me to the third position. And then if I try to uh, see where I am, I can write it here. I can again use tell function to see where I am. And now if I try to read the content, let's say I use read function again. So if I now I try to read the content, it will start reading from this position because I have shifted my cursor from here to from end to here. If I try to read here before this, it will give me nothing because here I am at the end of the file. But now using this f1.seek, I am taking my cursor back to the third position and then I'm trying to read the content again. Let's see what result it gives me. So let's see. So firstly, when I tried to read the content, it gave me whatever is written in the file, it gave me everything. Okay, whole file, whatever content was there, that is printed. Now, this is output of this line, print f1.tell. So it is telling me that currently my cursor position is, or my file handler it at this position. And that is last, that is end of file. And after here, when I try to read the file, it gave me nothing. It returned empty string because I was already at the end of the file. So it gave me empty string. With this line, what I did, I shifted the cursor position to third position. So it took me there. And with this, I tried to see where my cursor is and it gave me 3. So it showed me the cursor position. And when again I tried to read the file, so it started from after third position and rest of the file it read. So that is how seek and tell functions, they work. Okay, so with this, I guess I have told you how reading from the file happens, how writing to a file happens in text files, how you can append data in a text file, and of course, how do you manipulate using seek and tell. Okay. And now, it's assessment time. So I only have 6 questions for you. Pause the video. Very simple questions. Read and try and answer. Of course, I'm going to display answer key in the end, where you can compare your answers. All the best. Now here is the answer key. I hope you got all the right answers. If not, no problem. You can go back, revisit your concepts, replay the video, and again try the assessment. Okay. Thank you. That's all for today. Bye-bye.